All right, welcome back to the show. This is the Year in Music with DL. Today, we have a guest. Well, we have a guest every week, but this week's guest is a gentleman by the name of Guitar Hack. He has a channel on YouTube. His YouTube channel is always interesting, fun for live events, and safe for women and children. All right, maybe not children. Anyways, Hack, welcome to the show. Every week we do a different year of people's favorite or a year in music that has a strong meaning to you. And you've chosen 1984.
Right.
Very good. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself for the people that are driving home?
Well, I have a YouTube channel. I am a gigging musician. I don't do it for a full-time thing. I'm a weekend warrior. Playing
Gotcha.
bar band, pretty much play like every weekend. Variety of material. And yeah, I'm, just coming back to it now at an older age. I used to do it a lot when I was younger, in my 20s. I played a lot more, and then I kind of the family and all that. And then I got into it, and I'd say about 7 years, I'm in a pretty, developed a pretty good cover band, and we play a lot and bought a bunch of gear and guitars and all this, and just really got into it and decided to start a YouTube channel and share that experience with everybody out there. So,
Nice. Very good.
yeah.
All right. And I'd say you're roughly around my age. I don't want to give away your age, but I would say you probably graduated high school in the 80s.
Yes.
All righty, as did I. All right, so let's talk about 1984. Lots of stuff happening that year. Now, you said this was before we were talking, before we started filming, and you were saying how this was a year that we really became aware of music and
Yeah.
or it put a spark in you a little bit. What was some of the stuff that year that came out that you dug?
Well, the Scorpions for me was a band that I was getting into, and Love at First Sting came out in that year, and that was the record that really put them over the edge in terms of popularity. So that was a big thing. But I tell you honestly, the biggest record for me that year was Purple Rain.
Wow.
That, yeah, like I became obsessed with Prince at that point. Went back and bought his back catalog, and I was totally into Prince. That the movie, the whole thing, that hit me like a ton of bricks. So that for me was
Yeah,
probably the biggest.
it's funny. I always dug Dirty Mind and Controversy the best of his early stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Um, 1999 was okay, but that was kind of like what I thought put him like really up there. And then, of course, Purple Rain came out. Let's talk a little bit about that Scorpions record. That was a fantastic album. I
Yeah.
always thought Matthias was very underrated because, the Scorpions had Michael in the band at one point, Michael Schenker, Rudy's brother. And they also had Uli Roth, who to me was a monster. But I always thought that Matthias was severely overlooked. Um,
Yes.
and
Well, my experience with the Scorpions was more, I guess, from Blackout onwards, which was pretty much Matthias, right?
yes, but that
And
was Matthias's third record that he was on for
yeah,
Blackout.
yeah,
Because what's before that? Animal Magnetism, and before that is Love Drive.
Love Drive. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's Michael Schenker, I believe.
it's both. But Love Drive has both Matthias and Michael, and
Oh,
then Animal Magnetism's when Matthias is a full member of the band.
okay, I got you. Yeah, and yeah, that record. I mean, it was just like there's so many hits that came off of that. Well, Rock You Like a Hurricane, of course.
Sure.
And then Bad Boys Running Wild. Like all their
The
there
the
was.
song for me on that record was Coming Home. I have to say I do like the other record with the Blackout. I liked that more. That was more for me. This one was a little bit more pop, but it was still a great record.
Oh, I mean, getting back to Matthias, I mean, as a lead player, that guy absolutely blew me away, because he was very technical. Like, he was flashy, but it was
Mhm.
appropriate. You know what I mean? It wasn't flashy for the sake of being flashy. Everything he played worked for the song.
Well, he had a great pop sensibility. There's no question about it that
Yeah.
he was like if you took the European shredder guys and mixed it with Van Halen, that's what you get. I always liked Matthias. I think he's great.
Yeah, I think he's awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
So I was a big fan of that record. That was a good record. What else came out that year?
Well, in the rock vein, the other big one was Ride the Lightning. Metallica came out.
Oh,
And
yes.
the funny thing about that record is I actually discovered that record a couple of years later. As like the following year, I went to college, and I had a friend that was right into Metallica, and he introduced me to Metallica. And when I went back and I listened to that record, man, that record is amazing. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, so my brother went to college in 82. By 83, he came home and said, I know you like metal. Have you heard of Metallica? And I was like, no. And he's like, they just put out this record called Kill 'Em All, and
Right.
you should check it out. So I was like, yeah, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. And anyway, I never did. He brought it up again to me in 84. So when I went out to go check out the record, there was Ride the Lightning, which was the new one. I'm like, I'll
Right.
get the new one. And I bought that like right when it came out. No idea what was on it, what it was going to sound like. Trapped Under Ice, Creeping Death, The Call of Tulu. I like that record a lot.
Fate to
In
Black.
fact, I think it's the best album they did. And after that, I wasn't a big fan.
You didn't like Master of Puppets?
I did not.
Really?
I thought it was contrived. I thought it was like them trying too hard to repeat what they did. And it was like there wasn't anything new. Musically, the songs weren't any better. But there were some other good metal bands records out that year. The Last in Line came out in 84.
Right.
Ronnie James Dio,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
had some great songs.
Yeah.
And
I wasn't into Dio at that point. I got into Dio a little bit later on. But the other record that, oh man, I'm drawing a blank. Oh, the first Rat record came out. I thought that was great, Out of the Cellar.
Out of the Cellar was good.
I think
That's the one with Round and Round
that's correct. Yeah,
and
like
Back
that.
for More.
Yeah, Back for More, Lack of Communication, all those songs. The only thing that was Way Cool Jr.
No, that's way
Ter-
later.
Was that on another record?
Yeah, that's later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that record had some really good songs. There was a lot of bands that came out at that time. Like Anthrax put out their first record at that time as well. Bon Jovi put out their first record, which I was never, honestly though, I've never been a Bon Jovi fan ever.
Right.
You know, they were just, for me, they were just too, I mean, that was, I guess, in retrospect, their most rock sounding record. You know, everything else after that was kind of poppy, right? So,
One of my favorite records that year was Power Slave.
oh yeah, Iron Maiden, yeah. Well, Iron
And
Maiden was just, they were running on all cylinders, man. I mean, they were just, every
It
record.
really did throw it into overdrive from the point they got Bruce Dickinson. And I
Oh.
remember in 1982, a friend of mine was telling me about Iron Maiden, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I never heard of it. And so he lent me Live in Japan,
Right.
and I hated it. Made in Japan, it was called, and I hated it. I hated the singer. I'm like, this is not for me. And a couple of days after I gave it back and gave him my review, I hear a song on the radio like Number of the Beast, and I'm like,
Oh.
who the hell
Yeah.
is this?
It's a new band.
And it was Iron Maiden, and I'm like, this is not the same guy that I heard singing the other day. And I immediately went out and got it. And then in 83, Peace of Mind,
Peace of
bought
Mind.
it immediately.
Amazing.
84, Power Slave,
Power Slave.
immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately. Love the album. Unfortunately, at that same time, from 1980 on, I was a huge Judas Priest fan.
Oh,
And
yeah.
in 84, they released Defenders of the Faith. And I think that is a horrendous album. To me, it's like, let's re-release Screaming for Vengeance,
For Vengeance?
but with terrible songs.
I
Screaming's brilliant.
It's not as Screaming for Vengeance is a better record. I'm not going to argue that. But there were some moments on that record that were good.
Yeah, the moment when you had to take the record off the needle and flip it off, that silence, that 10 seconds of silence was the best part.
My fucking wife has an ass in her cock in the driveway, Kurt. All right? I'm sorry if my thoughts are not on the photography of the film we're shooting tomorrow.
I love Free Wheel Burning. I love The Sentinel. Eat Me Alive. I dig those songs. There were some weaker songs on there, I will admit, but I mean, it still had enough gems in there. I mean,
What do you
what
think Judas Priest's worst song is of all of the whole catalog? If you had to think of what's a terrible song, like aliens come down from outer space and they're like, "Show me a bad Judas Priest song, or we will wipe out the earth."
well, Defenders of the Faith, the title cut. I don't know if you heard that.
It doesn't even have to be off that album. I mean, just every album. What's their worst song? For me, it's going to be Parental Guidance.
Oh, for me, it's what's that song they try to do? Like, is it United? That's brutal.
Yeah, Parental Guidance is kind of a sing along.
Yeah,
So,
they're pretty bad, both of them.
so 1984, we also have an album, oddly enough, that is called 1984, and that was Van Halen.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And that is the last of the Van Halen as we all knew it, and they
Yeah,
would never
it
be
was-
the same after that.
yeah.
I'm not saying that as a thing of doom, of bad or good. I'm just saying that was the last time you're going to hear the young David Lee Roth and the boys put out a record that I think is phenomenal.
And for me, the worst song on that record is probably Jump. I don't like Jump. I never liked Jump.
And my least favorite is Panama.
Yeah, Panama's, yeah. But I mean, Drop Dead
And my
Legs,
favorite is probably either Drop Dead Legs or Girl Gone Bad.
Girl Gone Bad. Yeah, I mean, there are some, and actually, I don't mind I'll Wait. I don't mind that song.
I love it.
Yeah, I don't mind that
It's
song
a
at
great
all.
pop song. It's great.
You know, I mean, I was the bands that I kind of stayed away from. I never liked the blend of the keyboard with the heavy guitar. I never liked that, right? And Van Halen, that was their first real. Let's put a lot of keyboards on the record. So, you know, but the songs that were when Eddie was playing the guitar, I mean, apart from All Wait, I think were great on that record.
As soon as you said you didn't like keyboards and guitars, I was thinking, and am I right or wrong here? But wasn't Night Ranger's record out that year too in '84, or is it '83?
Oh, like with was it Sister Mercy?
Sister Christian.
Sister Christian, okay.
No, but then there was another record with 4 in the Morning. What was that album called?
I was never in a Night Ranger.
Oh, you're crazy.
Never.
They were great. Hold on, let me take a look. The guitar playing in that band is just outstanding.
Oh, Brad Gillis is a beast.
Jeff Watson. Okay, so they didn't put anything out in '84, so I'm not. It was '85 and '83. Another one of those. All right, yeah. So Van Halen, man, that was a big year for them. It was also a huge year for Bruce Springsteen.
Right.
Yeah.
And not my no.
It's not my favorite Bruce album, I will say that. Although there was some records that came out that year. Let me just talk about the Fringe, so I'll get them out of the way because I don't really think you're on the Fringe when it comes to like alternative music.
Depends.
So things that I loved in 1984 was the Smiths' first album came out,
Mhm.
and the Smiths also came out with Hatful of Hollow, which was like a European pressing of some other songs, the singles and whatnot. Ocean Rain by Echo and the Bunnymen came out. U2 had come out with The Unforgettable Fire, which was the first album that was produced by Daniel Lanois for the band. A whole new sound for the band. Probably my favorite album with from the band. If not, it's that or Rock Tongue Baby.
What songs were on that record?
Unforgettable Fire had Wire. It had Pride in the Name of Love.
Oh, I love that song.
It had Bad. It had the song The Unforgettable Fire. It had a Sort of Homecoming is a great song on that album. So just sticking to the Fringe still again, David Sylvian had an album called Brilliant Trees, and anyone that listens to my show hears me talk about David Sylvian. He was the singer for the band Japan. There was also Cocteau Twins put out a record called Treasure, which is like one of my all-time favorite Cocteau Twins records. If you've never heard of the band, they're from Glasgow, Scotland. Phenomenal band. Also from Scotland, the Blue Nile put out their first album, A Walk Across the Rooftops. And In Excess had Swing, which I don't know if you remember that record.
What was on it?
Original Sin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the big hit. Now let's talk about some of the heavy rock. Some of the stuff that I was really into, besides the Scorpions, that year Whitesnake came out with an album called Slide It In.
Oh yeah.
And with the song Slow and Easy.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the other big hit on that record? Love Ain't No Stranger.
Yeah.
That to me, and Slide It In. Oh, there's so many songs. That album to me is what I call a perfect rock record. It is always overlooked in my opinion. Queen put out an album that year, The Works, which I wasn't that big of a fan of.
Oh.
I think Hammer to Fall is on that album, and that might be the only song that I really take with me. I think Radio Gaga's on that album too, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just take a quick look. I Want to Break Free is on that record. Hammer to Fall. Yeah, Hammer to Fall is on that album. So I was really big into that Whitesnake album. And I think Stevie Ray Vaughan's record came out that year, if I'm not mistaken. Couldn't Stand the Weather.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Another
I got into Stevie later on, but yeah, that's a great record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Perfect Strangers by Deep Purple, their comeback year.
Their comeback, yeah, that's right. That was that year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, I got my license in 1984. Rush had Grace Under Pressure. How dare you ignore your Canadian brother?
You know,
your Canadian brothers of Rush.
Well, again, we talked about the keyboard thing. That's when
Yeah.
keyboard land, right? So that's when I tuned out. I tuned out Rush. I came back to them later on when they put out that record. I can't. The name escapes me right now, but it had the title cut was "Stick It Out."
Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Because if you watch anyone that watches my channel, when I do my live shows, I always love asking people trivia. What do you think the first Van Halen song with keyboards is?
The first one I can think of is something off of 1984. But I obviously I'm wrong.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Which one is it?
The song is "In the Cradle Will Rock."
Okay. I know that song.
The whole main section that plays that people think is a guitar is actually a Fender Rhodes piano going through his Marshall. Right before the solo, he lifts up on the volume pedal and you can hear the amp not being overdriven as much. When it's like, boo-doo, you can hear the Rhodes under his thing, but boom, 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 boom. That's a keyboard.
That was my first Van Halen record. Was in Women and Children First.
Mine too. In
1980. I love that. I don't know why that record doesn't get a lot of love in the Van Halen world, but man, I love that.
It's
record.
My favorite.
Yeah. Yeah.
Romeo Delight. I mean, I'll go over that album in detail when I go over my favorite year, 1980, when somebody comes on and picks that same year. However, that one for me was, which I'm surprised you didn't pick that year because I know you're a big fan of, no, you like Mob Rules better than Heaven and Hell.
I like Mob Rules, but like I said earlier, like off air, like it's 1984. I was saying to you, it's not necessarily my favorite year in music, but it's the year that I kind of like really got into stuff.
Yeah.
And
so also that year, in 1984, not to interrupt, but it was one of your favorite albums, I believe. It was the Make It Big album by Wham.
Yeah, Wham was having their, I mean, that's what was going on at that time. You had Wham was making their heyday. Madonna, like you mentioned, Like a Virgin, that was making its heyday.
Yeah, Careless Whisper, though, was a great song. Everything She Wants was a great song.
Yeah, yeah.
Wake Me Up Before You Go.
Yeah.
David Spade used to have a joke where he was like, how did I not know that George Michael was gay? When I went back and listened to the lyrics, he's like, you put your ball bag in my mouth. It's fucking hilarious stuff. Folks, lock up the children. Lock up your daughters. Oh, you know what else was out then? One of my favorite songs, Age of Consent by Bronski Beat. You don't know it.
You know what name is?
It was very, very. It's It's part of the 80s sound that I love it. I
What's
do love it.
I wouldn't know the name of the record, but if you gave me a song, I'd probably know it.
Oh no, the song is called Small Town Boy.
All right, maybe not then.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I got into that British new wave stuff a few years later. That was later on. But getting back to that year, for me, the biggest record of that year was hands down, it was Purple Rain. That totally took me over when I heard that record. The whole Prince thing. There was a big, it was like a big competition at that point. It was, you're either in the Bruce Springsteen Born in the USA camp. Like, this is in high school, right?
Right.
You're into that camp, or you're in the Prince camp, or you're the rock guy. So for me, it was like
The rock guy. Hold on. And by the rock guy, you mean Bruce Springsteen? Because this sounds like a very West Side Story, Leonard Bernstein's type of high school here.
Bruce Springsteen was. I was never a Bruce Springsteen fan. He's one of those guys, like, yeah, he's got a couple, and he never did anything for me. Prince, on the other hand, blew me away.
Yeah.
Absolutely blew me away.
I always hated Bruce, and I have to say, in the early 90s, late 80s, could have been 89, a buddy of mine was like, let me lend you this record by Tom Waits called Blue Valentines. And it just stuck with me. I loved the album. I ended up buying almost everything by Tom Waits. And then I started listening to Bruce a little differently, and I was like, this is really good. It's not as good as Tom Waits, but I really liked it. It took me years because I hated him in high school. But I wasn't a big Prince fan. Like I said, I like more of the fringe stuff. So I liked Dirty Mind. I thought that was a good record. I thought Controversy was a good record. I think, and a lot of the Prince in the 80s, like Purple Rain, I mean, there was some good songs on it. Beautiful Ones is a great song. The song Purple Rain is a little bit too reminiscent of Faithfully for my taste. I just don't see the wow factor of it. And then, I don't know. I don't love it. I think Prince is very overrated. And I also think that he's underrated in some respects because he has some great songs that people don't know, but the stuff that people know, I'm kind of like, I don't know. You know what? I was like in my early 20s, I joined an all-black band in Mattapan, which is like a part of Boston. And they used to always make fun, like, the white kid doesn't know this song. He doesn't know that song. And it was all fun. We were all loved each other. Great guys.
Right.
And they would name songs that we were going to perform. And I'm like, I never heard of any of these. And they're like, so they were like, you got to go out and get this record and this record. I'm like, I'll go out and get these records. But if I don't like these songs, we got to talk. And I listened to music like Funkadelic by George, and Parliament, and just a lot of stuff, Ohio Players, stuff I never heard. And I was like, oh, this is great. So then when I went back and I can hear some Prince stuff, a lot of it to me sounds like, yeah, these guys were doing this and they did it better.
Right.
But if you want to hear a great song by Prince, there's a record called 3121 where he does a song called Get on the Boat. And that's a phenomenal song. Like, that part of Prince, I love.
Yeah, that record and the follow-up to that, oh, man. It was Alphabet Street was the next record after that. Those two
Alphabet Street was on Love Sexy, if I'm not mistaken.
No, Love Sexy.
We're going to, I think it's on Love Sexy. There was a couple between them, though.
Alphabet Street was a single. Love Sexy was the record. You're right. Red.
Yeah, but that's years later, though. I'm thinking that's 87, because I'm pretty sure the one that
was it Sign of the Times? When did Sign of the Times come out?
That's 87 too. That time, 87, 88. I'm just guessing, because here's what I think. And I'm going completely by my memory here.
Right.
84 was Purple Rain. 85 might be Around the World in a Day.
Sorry. You're right. Around the World in a Day. That's a song that had Raspberry Beret on it.
Exactly. And then after that, it was Under the Cherry Moon. And then Love Sexy. Now I gotta go look it up.
Yeah, I got my timeline all messed up. But that whole period I thought was great.
Oh, I don't even know if I'm right. I'm just gonna look it up now.
Well, then you got under the what is it? Under Graffiti.
Under the Cherry Moon. Oh, Graffiti Bridge was after.
It was after, yeah.
That might be 88. It was after Love Sexy.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
All right, here we go. Love Sexy's 88.
Okay.
Graffiti Bridge is 90. Sign of the Times is 87. Parade is 86. Around the World in a Day is 85. Yeah.
Yeah, that whole period I was right into him.
Wait, where's Under the Cherry Moon? Oh, you know what album I love is Come from 94.
Yeah, I was up by that point.
Oh, no, Batman's here. So maybe Parade was the Under the Cherry Moon soundtrack. It is.
There
I
you go.
see. I thought the album was called Under the Cherry Moon. It's Parade. It's 86.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, and Parade is the one that had
Mountains.
Mountains and Kiss.
Sometimes It Snows in April. That's a beautiful song.
Like I said, the songs that get overplayed by Prince, like the song Purple Rain, I've had enough of. But I do like him, but I think he's overrated, especially as like a guitar player. That's just my own personal. Hey, you know what else came out this year was Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Oh, Relax.
Relax and Two Tribes.
Two Tribes, yeah.
That was a great one.
I think they released Relax about 15 different ways.
All right, relax. Thank you. So also your favorite album, Private Dancer, came out. The idea of this show is not to sit there and just name records that came out, but stuff that was really meant something. You may not, I don't know if you're familiar with Paul Weller, but My Ever-Changing Moods, which is probably the Style Council's best tune, and You're the Best Thing is both on Cafe Blue. Great album.
Yeah, we got to talk about Animalized by Kiss too. That came out that year. I like that record because, I like it because it was before.
You like it because nobody else does?
That's right. I like it because it's before they decided to get all poppy with Crazy Nights and all that, and Asylum was sort of leading that way, and you know, and then there's some of the best
hold the phone.
in the world. Burn Bitch Burn, man.
Before they got too poppy, feel my heat.
Okay, outside of that one.
Come with me. Oh my God, I always do that tune.
No, but there's songs on there like Get All You Can Take. That's a great song. And I love Burn Bitch Burn. I mean, the lyrics of that song still make me laugh. They're hilarious.
Yeah, tremendous. I grew up Kiss. Kiss was my band when I grew up. From the time I was like, I have to say probably from 76 to 1980. And in 1980, there was the year I woke up to music when I was like, what was the album by Unmasked came out by
Unmasked
Kiss.
is 80, yeah.
And I liked it, but I was like falling out of favor with me. I had just been turned on to Led Zeppelin. Black Sabbath was with Dio, AC/DC.
Right. The best version.
Now, it's funny you say to me you really weren't into Dio. You didn't really know Dio then because
well, Dio
was a
solo.
huge fan of Dio and the Rainbow stuff.
Dio, I did okay, so I discovered Dio when he sang with Sabbath. But I didn't follow Dio solo afterwards.
I see.
It's funny because I've seen Sabbath twice, but the first time I saw Sabbath was on the Mob Rules tour. And Dio was fronting the band, of course. And that was my first, time seeing.
And who was on drums? Was that Neil Diamond?
Neil Diamond, yeah, Vinny Appice.
Oh, no, that's Vinny Appice. I'm sorry,
Appice.
the photo. The photo that came up on my screen looks just like Neil Diamond.
He calls himself, I think he prefers Appice over Appice, but I always call him Appice, but it's Appice, I guess.
Actually, it's not even a piece.
What is it?
A Piche.
A Piche. Ah.
I asked Carmine when he did a clinic for me at West LA Music, I said, why do you go by a piece? And your brother goes by Appice. And he goes, you want to know the truth? I said, yeah. He goes, our name's a Piche. That's what he told me.
For that year, for me, the biggest record that impressed me anyway it was more Purple Rain. I'd say would be first, and then second it would be Love at First Sting, Scorpions.
Really?
Those were the two records, yeah.
For 1984, for me it would be Whitesnake, We're missing a big album here we haven't talked about yet, and I'll bring it up. But and Sade, I think, had a big record out that year too. But we're missing a record. For me, I would say that Whitesnake, Slide It In, probably Power Slave by Iron Maiden. We haven't talked about Building the Perfect Beast by Don Henley.
Right.
Were you a Henley fan?
No, that's why I haven't mentioned it. But there's 2 records that we haven't mentioned either.
Hold on, but on this album, Boys of Summer, that was a huge
Yeah, what's the
song.
big
Down
one?
at the Sunset Grill, Driving with Your Eyes Closed. An unbelievable record.
There's 2 records we're not mentioning, and one of them I know is one of your personal favorites, by the way.
Okay, let me hear this one.
Okay, so Twisted Sister came out with Stay Hungry.
Yes, they did. You're gonna burn in hell, no evil, don't you see? Love Burn in Hell, hate the rest of the record.
And the other one that came out, I don't know if you were into these guys at all, but I thought they were hilarious. Wasp came out with I think that was their debut record that year.
So I used to be very friendly with Randy Piper from Wasp.
Oh, okay.
Great, great guy. I love him dearly. He is a super nice guy. Unbelievable. So also this year, Heartbeat City came out this
Yes,
year.
the Cars, yep.
And the last of their albums that I could stomach, and still not a great record by them.
Yeah, for me, the Cars is the first 2 records.
Oh, you're missing out. You're missing out.
What am I missing out on?
I think the third album could be their best.
Really?
Panorama's phenomenal.
Really?
Phenomenal.
I love the debut, and I love Candio.
If you love those two, you're going to love the third record.
I
You
gotta-
know a lot of the songs on it, I bet. You just never listened to it.
Probably, I'll know. Yeah, if you name a couple.
You know the song Panorama?
No, I've never.
Touch and Go?
Touch and
It's
Go.
touch and go. Oh.
Yeah, I know.
That's on that album.
Yeah.
Panorama's phenomenal. I would have if somebody wanted to argue with me, what's a better album, Candio or Panorama? I could go both. I could take either side all day.
Yeah.
Because I think Candio and Panorama are better than the first album.
You think so?
I do.
Wow, I love that first record, man.
It's phenomenal.
I love it.
That's how good Candio and Panorama is.
Yeah. And I love the title track, Candio. I mean, that's a great song.
Candio, I need you. I love Benoit's voice, so it's
Oh man, yeah.
Oh, The Simple Minds, I'm looking on my page here, popped up as an 84 release. It was also, what was on the Footloose soundtrack? Because I know you love that album.
Oh god, no. Yeah, that was the year.
Come on, it's phenomenal. Look at these songs on this album. This will tell you what 1984 brought us. Kenny Loggins' Footloose, Let's Hear It for the Boy by Denise Williams, Almost Paradise by Ann Wilson and Mike Reno,
Shoot Me. Yeah.
Holding Out for a Hero by Bonnie Tyler,
Oh god.
Dancing in the Sheets by Shalimar. That's about the only, that's the rest, and the rest of it's not good. People are going to be like, you left out my favorite. Too bad.
Nah, I was not a Footloose fan.
I never saw the movie. I got to be honest.
I have never seen it either.
Yeah, I know. There'd be no reason for me to ever see that.
No.
REM Reckoning came out in, speaking of like alternative bands, Reckoning came out in 1984.
What was the big song on that?
That one had South Central Rain. I'm sorry, gone, sorry. That was a great song.
Oh,
I think
okay.
that was like the only big hit on that record, but that's a good song.
Yeah,
They were a good band.
that one I know.
I like their earlier stuff. The first 2 albums I liked. Like I liked Murmur a lot because I always liked Radio Free Europe, Radio, and then they never sounded like that for the rest of their career.
Yeah, I was listening to Man on the Moon the other day from them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've had to do that on Mandolin Live a few times with some bands.
Yeah, I like that song.
It's not bad. There was another band that had a couple of hits this year, I believe, and I think they're called the Thompson Twins. Doctor, And Hold Me Now. Hold
Oh,
Me
I remember Hold Me Now.
Oh, yeah. They were Into the Gap was the name of the album. Not Mind the Gap, but Into the Gap. And when Howard Jones had a record out this year too. Let's see if it was his big one. Yeah, What Is Love by Howard Jones.
Right.
That was a great song. Not as good as the later one though, the No One Is to Blame.
Yeah, that's a good tune.
But What Is Love's a great song. Yeah, it came out on March 5th of 84 released. Interesting stuff. 84 is a peculiar year because I would have said if somebody just brought it up to me, it's like something I really have to think about to go back because for me, my favorite years are probably 80, then 78, 79, 81, 83, 82. And then I'd have to start going into stuff, maybe 77. But 84 doesn't have as I got older, I thought actually 86 was a pretty good year too. But I'm glad you picked it because that's the whole thing of this show. If I picked the years, we'd be doing only what I like.
Right. Well, if you look at it sort of like, put it in perspective, like that was sort of the year where, the new wave of British heavy metal, that was over. I mean, the new wave was over. It was already existing. And you just had sort of the birth of sort of the
thrash.
The hair metal, the thrash kind of started at that point. The hair metal, like that's when the Rats, that's when, Motley Crue started to come on strong as well, like that whole thing.
And to be honest, that's what turned me off to metal.
What's that?
To be honest, that's what turned me off to heavy metal was the hair metal.
Yeah, well, it was, I mean, going back to the Scorpions, like that record was a poppy record, but you still had the nice heavy guitar. But if you go like a year or two later, that's when for me anyway, that's when everything started to sound so overproduced.
Oh wait,
and everything lost its grit. You know what I mean?
I just thought of an album I bought, 1984. I'm pretty sure Queensryche, The Warning.
Yes, that came out that year. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
The Warning with that was a great record. NM156 is on that. Roads to Nowhere. Take Hold of the Flame. Because as soon as you said that was when hair metal started, I was like, what the hell did I buy then around then? And I remember hair metal was getting big, and I got into Queensryche, Maiden, and Priest.
Yeah. And then unfortunately, Priest was still good at that point for me. Then after that came Turbo, and then they jumped on the hair metal train, right? And then they came back with Painkiller and all that. But
I wish I'd have a time machine. I could go back and interview myself around that year and say, "What do you listen to?" I don't like that faggy stuff. I like Judas Priest and Queen, Elton John. None of that gay stuff.
Yeah. I love Wham.
Well, that was obvious.
Boy George is my hero. Yeah. Anyway, but like it was. I think it was like the last year where like the guitars were still great. Oh, we didn't. Well, I don't think did Def Leppard put out a record that. I don't think they did. But Def Leppard, High and Dry, that's a great record. And then they got into Pyromania, and then they got into all that heavy production.
Pyromania is 83.
Is it 83? Am I off?
Pyromania is 83. My question
is 83? All right, so they're already going down that path. So.
Oh no, well that's hold on, let me look. Def Leppard is an interesting one because I think one of their best songs is on their first album, and hold on, let me just look something up for a sec. It Don't Matter is on Through the Night. And if you get a chance, look up the song It Don't Matter by Def Leppard. It's one of my all-time favorites. Great rock and roll. High and Dry was 81, Pyromania 83, and Hysteria was 87.
Yeah, so by then, for me, they were ready to, I don't know.
In fact, I think in 84, at the end of the year, I think that's when the drummer lost his arm.
Yeah, it was that year. Actually, totally on a tangent, but that's also the year that Michael blew his head up doing a Pepsi commercial.
Oh, okay.
His head burst in flames.
Yeah.
And Thriller was released the year
Well,
before, but
I don't know why
Thriller
he
took
didn't
over
read on
that.
the label that Soul Glow is very flammable.
Yes.
Just let your soul glow.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Soul Glow?
Yes.
Coming to America?
Yes.
Have you ever seen that movie?
I've seen the movie. Yeah. Actually,
Ah,
the second one should be coming out shortly too.
I love Coming to America.
Yeah, it's a good.
Hakeem, who was that man? Just the man I met in the men's room.
I loved Sexual Chocolate. For me, that was the best. The band.
Ah, you remember him as Joe the policeman from the What's Going Down episode of That's My Mama. Give it up for Jackson Heights only Randy Watson.
Randy Watson and his band, Sexual Chocolate.
Oh,
That's hilarious.
thank you. Thank you. I believe the children are the future. Teach them well and let them. Oh, it's fantastic.
They're doing a remake. Well, they're doing a part 2 of that movie, and they're bringing all those people back, and I can't wait to see that, man. It's gonna be hilarious.
You know, I'm looking at. I just looked up something. Ooh, Billy Bragg put out something. I was never a Billy Bragg fan, but I had a lot of friends that liked him.
Yeah.
But I just saw that Run DMC had a record out in '84.
Oh, that was the year.
Play
Of
with them?
breakdancing. Oh yeah, that was also the big year for. That's when breakdancing hit the. What's what I'm looking for? Like everybody was aware of it.
One of my favorite greatest hits albums came out in 1984, Legend by Bob Marley and the Wailers.
Ah,
It's a great album. Are you a reggae fan at all?
take it or leave it.
We had a gig a couple of weeks ago and we ended up played a couple of songs. We played Get Up, Stand Up. We played Waiting in Vain.
Mm.
And then we played a song by Toots and the Maytals, the original version of Pressure Drop, which, I mean, everybody's covered Pressure Drop. The Clash, The Specials, Robert Palmer. My pick of the year, and you're going to call me crazy, only because I still listen to it to this day, is Whitesnake, Slide It In. Go ahead, pick out your one album from '84.
It's got to be Purple Rain, man.
All right, you heard it here first, folks. Guitar Hack says Purple Rain. Listen, I don't want you to make fun of him. No, I'm just kidding. I don't want you to comment all over his page that he liked. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, like I said, it's Computer Blues stinks. It's not
I
even
love every song on the record, man. I love it.
No, you can't like every song because Computer Blues stinks. It's not a perfect album, folks. We know how I feel about perfect albums. You had all your choices. You could have picked.
Well, you know what? If I pick the second one,
even Unforgettable Fire would have been acceptable.
Love at First Sting would be the other one. It would be those. It would be those two because those two were the.
I mean, the worst song on that album was Crossfire, and it's still a great song.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You know what? I might even put in Defenders of the Faith.
No, you can't because you'd have to go Power Slave. The judges, yeah, they've already said.
No, man. Free Will Burning, man. That's killer.
I got to be honest with you. Recently, I put that record on, and I'm like, I'm going to give this album another chance because I do that a lot. Like albums that I had bought back when I was younger, I'm like, I never liked it. I'm going to give it a chance. And I went and listened to it, and I was listening to it thinking, this is terrible. No, seriously, I was like, even Free Will Burning, like when they go Free Will Burning, the guitars don't even sound like they're in time. They sound like they're off from each other. And then it was like the producer was like, I'm just going to put a big slapback delay and it's just going to sound like a sloppy mess. And they'll think we did it. And it's like, no, you can't cover it up. It's terrible.
You don't like the Sentinel?
Oh, I didn't like the record. I have to say, there was nothing on that album. I can't remember. There was one or two songs where I was like, this is okay. But for the most part, I was like, this is not good.
Right.
But that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that
I would say the Animalized record too, but I love Get All You Can Take.
Hold on. So you're going to say Animal. Hold on, I'm going to make sure I get this straight. Animalize, you're going to put above Van Halen 1984.
Oh,
which the first song on it you said was Jump, which Jump's a phenomenal song.
I don't like Jump.
Jump's
You know what?
Heaven's
I'll
on
tell you why I
Fire.
don't like Jump, because I've heard it 1,000 times. Probably. I'm
I-
done with Jump.
Okay. Born in the USA, I can understand why
No.
people don't like it. There's some good songs. Let me see what's on that record. I like the album afterwards better, and I like the album before it better.
Well,
But the album after it was Tunnel of Love, and I really liked that album. Some
Glory
great.
Days is on that one, I believe.
Oh, Glory Days is on Born in the USA.
Right. That's what I'm
You
saying.
got Born in the USA, Cover Me, Darlington County. I'm on Fire, I like. No Surrender's okay. Bobby Jean, I'm going down. It's just too many times I'm going down. Glory Days, Dance in the Dark. In My Hometown's pretty good. I like In My Hometown. I can't, it's not the best Bruce album, and it's not a perfect album, but it's very good. That's just the same thing I'd say about Purple Rain. It's a very good album.
You know, I guess for you, then the closest thing to a perfect record of the ones I mentioned might be Love at First Sting.
Yeah, I think so. Because only because the worst song on that album is let me see. I know Crossfire. It's got so many great songs, and lyrically the record is horrendous, but that's because the translating, it's just I love it though. Bad Boys Running Wild, great. Rock You Like a Hurricane, my least favorite, but still not a bad song. I'm Leaving You, I love. Coming Home, I love.
Yeah.
The Same Thrill, that might be worse than Crossfire, but it's still a decent song.
Yeah. Yeah.
City Nights, As Soon as the Good Times Roll, Crossfire, and Still Loving You, great album. Great record.
I remember seeing them live. And, you know, when, oh man, the singer's, I'm blanking on his name now, right now.
Klaus Meine.
Klaus Meine. So Klaus Meine is, you know, talking to the crowd. And I was watching this concert with my buddies, and you couldn't understand a word he said until he announced the city at the end. So it's like, Toronto! Toronto!
Yeah. Right.
It's hilarious.
Oh, California!
Yeah.
California! Pigs. So a record that I also want to bring up again was Brilliant Trees from 1984 from David Sylvian. Pulling Punches, The Ink in the Well, Nostalgia. Red Guitar is a song to check out by him. It's very it's different, but it's very good. Did I mention Animalize yet? I think Grace Under Pressure is a very good album. I don't. It's a little too mechanical. I was going to do a video about Neil Peart recently, because I think I'm harsh on him on my channel, and I was watching a documentary about the band, and I love the way he played on the early records. I just think after the 80s, I just don't think he plays the same. He lost some of the fire and the looseness in his playing, and he just doesn't groove for me. But I do think, like, what's the one before Grace Under Pressure? Signals? That's a phenomenal album.
Signals is great. Yeah.
Signals is phenomenal. If Grace Under Pressure could bring in some of the, I don't want to say looseness, but less computerized sound,
Right.
it would have been a much better album. It would have been a phenomenal record.
I cashed out with, well, Signals for me was, I mean, you know the record, heavy keyboards on that. And at that point, that's when I cashed out on Rush. Because then they went into keyboard land. They went into 80s land.
Right.
And that's when I kind of cashed out on them. Then I came back to them later on. But there are good songs on all of those 80s records, though. There's always one or two gems on every one of those records. Like, what were some of the songs on Grace Under Pressure?
Grace Under Pressure had Red Sector A,
Yeah, there's a good one.
Kid Gloves.
Yeah.
What's the one? I see the tip of the iceberg, and I worry about
District Early
you.
Warning?
Just an Early Warning opens the record.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah. Let me see. I'll look it up here real quick. What's it? Grace Under Pressure.
I think that was the single, District Early Warning.
Just an Early Warning. Yeah, was definitely After Image, Red Sector A, The Enemy Within, The Body Electric, kid gloves, red lenses, and between the wheels.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny is that's the first album that's not produced by Terry Brown, and I think it loses.
There you go.
I think that was their problem. If that album had been produced by Terry Brown, I think it would have sounded better.
Probably, yeah.
And when I say better, I mean I think the new guy got it a little bit mechanical sounding, and it loses something with that record.
Yeah.
So we can basically and Power Windows, was that the same guy? No, a different producer, but I thought Power Windows was a little better sounding than Grace Under Pressure, with the songs not being as good. But even that producer, if he had produced that other album, I think he would have been better for the band. I'm not calling the other guy a bad producer. I just think he's not producing. Well, maybe that is a bad producer. He's not producing the band to sound what the band sounds like. He's making it sound different. I just didn't care for that production. Well, that's a look at 1984, folks. So I think if you look at our picks, Hack has picked Purple Rain / the Scorpions' Love It for a Sting, although we really should make him stick to his first. No, I'm just kidding. And I think Whitesnake slided in for me was the album of that year for me, with Power Slave coming in at a close second, and maybe David Sylvian and Brilliant Trees coming in at a third. No, Cocteau Twins' Treasure was definitely third for me.
Well, if you're going to go 3, I'm going to go Judas Priest for number 3. To your chagrin.
Oh, yeah. No, I love it. I love it because that, I can tell you right now, the only time that record would appear on any of my lists is if I'm doing worst albums. All right, everybody. Hey, listen, I want to thank Guitar Hack for coming on to this podcast and talking about 1984, one of his favorite years and important years in music for him.
Well, thanks for inviting me, man. Appreciate it.
As always, everybody, very good.
Cheers.